engineers being engineers, we put everything on tech, $26,000 on tech, bankrupt in 6 months. So that's the
seen that, like finding like real problems and then solving for those rather than just creating a Me Too application, like a social media kind of thing.
100%. So it's definitely fail. But it's okay to fail fast and cheap because you don't have a dependency. No one is dependent on you. The biggest, every day there's something happen. But the biggest, I would say it was a risk which we aware and we didn't prioritize to address it, and we lost a lot. That is Ditwa. Understanding customers and sales and cash flow is the king. Nothing else. The tech and everything can be fixed. Any internal issues can be fixed, but the sales and cash flow and the customers are the keys.
Welcome to the Builder Story. Learn from people who have built really cool stuff that matter. Miller, tell me, what's your background story before becoming the CEO of your current company?
I born and bought in Colombo, so I'm studied in Jaffna, Bamlapiti Inter College, but I completed my university period in Jaffna University as a computer science major. My co-founders are from Jaffna. They are Moratuwa University graduate. The best part, my co-founder John is the island second ranker in 2009.
Wow.
So I saw him in the TV for the first time. In the news, he was like talking about things. And in between my set score and his set score, there can be a Moratuwa merit engineers can be placed. He's like 3.9 something around. I was like, wow, nowhere near. So this guy is a crazy genius and is a child prodigy, Olympiad champion. And my other co-founder, Jay, he also Island 35. So we are like talking to like nerds on this line. Amazing techies become electronic engineers. So it was a very fun time to be getting into Jaffna University and Moratuwa from vice versa. But that time gives huge opportunities whenever it comes to necessity, because there's nothing in the northern province. We have to rebuild stuff. So that's where, you know very well, like that YAL IT Hub, it was an accelerator, one of the earliest accelerator for startup ecosystem, started from North. So YAL IT Hub conduct acceleration program, a competition basically, YAL Geek Challenge. We were one of the first cohort or the first competition challengers. So during post-war, 2011-12, not Jaffna, I'm talking about Wanni, which is Kilinochi and Mullaitivu mostly, Mannar, Kilinochi, Mullaitivu. They're getting like 2 hours or 3 hours of electricity, which comes off peak time, mostly like 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. in the night. So my friends come up with a small gadget where you don't want to go to the field. 90% of the working population, which is in farming. So these guys come up with a small IoT device. SMS technology is the highest tech that time, 2013, which all familiar with. So you can send an SMS and you can control irrigation pump, and you don't want to go to the field, because the major problem was not only the snakes and stuff, you have to go to the field in the night. The landmines were not completely clear. It's a life and death situation where you can't go to the field in the night. So these guys send a SMS, you can switch on, sending another SMS, it switch off. You can schedule an SMS to based on the power time period. Probably we are the first crowd-funded tech company in Sri Lanka. We were invested by the community. 24 people invest us, $26,000. That's where Senz made basically the mother company where it started. Sensor-based friends, that's what it's all about. But engineers being engineers, we put everything on tech, $26,000 on tech, bankrupted within 6 months. So that's the backstory is all about. So because we install a $26,000 worth of tech, our first PCB, the electronics, was built in Canada through an introduction, and we didn't figure out the business model. We put like, that's 1,000 rupees a month. That's all farmers could pay. Paddy farmers could pay for a MS-based application. And 1,000 rupees a month, 2 to 3 farmers, and $26,000 in the market, and already invested, nothing in hand. Even before realizing that we are not having a business model, we were bankrupted. So came back to Colombo. So ICTA, the Sri Lankan ICT agency, which has a program called Spiralation, which is a accelerator program again, a grant program. We got that time, it's roughly around $5,000, like 750,000 rupees. And that grant where we pivot to post-harvest technology, not to work with farmers directly, and working on sensors, on cold rooms, reefer trucks, which transport perishable items. And eventually, John Keels become one of our customers and end up in investing on our AgriTech company in later stages.
Wow, such a great journey. I still remember whenever that I go to Jaffna because I was traveling to attend y'all Geek Challenge as well annually. I come back very inspired, like looking at what the youngsters are building, and then of course, folks like you guys are building. Seeing that, like finding like real problems and then solving for those rather than just creating a Me Too
Yeah.
application, like a social media kind of thing. You all were like building, like solving for real problems. Talk to me about that mindset and how you got into that. Okay, now we are solving a problem. Now I have some funding. Let's go build a business.
Exactly, Safra. That's a mindset, as you rightly said. Because we were, I don't say we are born entrepreneurs. We don't have a history of entrepreneurship in my family or my
Mhm.
co-founders' family. They're all farmers. Jayanthan's father is an engineer. My father is a farmer. John's father is a farmer. So we don't have this entrepreneurship. We never exposed to this also. So Yalight is one of the major role they played in terms of introducing entrepreneurship to us. For me personally, Dr. Sharveshwaran is my mentor. He introduced me to basically he incorporated my first company without my permission. So he registered the company. Here your company, now run it as a company. Don't just build website without an invoice. So that's how my first career started. But when we are graduating, we already have the company. So in fourth year, we have incorporated. So Morato University supported with a little bit of incubation support. Professor Gihan Dyers and Dilika Dyers, madam, was really helpful in terms
Yeah.
of tech R&D. So because it's an IoT and AI enabled company, we're talking about 2014, and nobody building their own PCBs and hardware in Sri Lanka. So we want to build an IoT brand out of Sri Lanka. So people liked it, people helped. There's nothing, we just burned out ourselves type of thing. So yes, it was a hard journey. We don't feel it because we don't have a dependency that time. Maybe that's a good advice for young entrepreneurs also. The company,
Mhm.
first company, 95% it will fail. 100%. So it's definitely failed. But it's okay to fail fast and cheap because you don't have a dependency. No one is dependent on you. That's the exact same scenario for us as well, because we get paid by our parents. Yes, it was a hard time, not a luxury life we had. Our parents are not dependent on us into the 2015, like 25 years old, unfortunately in Sri Lankan condition. But when we are getting out, there was only one option our mentors talk about, Shayanthan and Sarvesh and all. You guys are engineers. You are in the cutting edge employment hub that anytime you drop this and you have a job. And you guys are nerds. So Jay and John, I'm basically the mouthpiece of the company. So those guys are the real brains. They are like cutting edge engineers. They are getting into
Mhm.
Morocco in merit, and they are like the top in the class holders, and they are the super geniuses. So those guys have like globally they can go. They can place in
Yeah.
AWS or they can place in Google anywhere. So, but for our context is if we are losing this, definitely we have an option. But they gave a thing that if you work for a company and you are settled up, your family comes, your kids comes in, and we are in 25, we are talking about this time period. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's where we're starting. Unlike other part of the world, the secondary schools end in 20s. So now in another 5 years, we have to settle our next 30 years. So in this period,
Mhm.
anything could happen. If we settle up at a point where we can't move ourselves, we can't get rid of ourselves, this company will definitely die. It's very reluctant to start the company again. So let's
Yeah.
give it a shot, and you're never going to lose it. If we lose it, doesn't matter. You always have the opportunity. So that's the backup what we had. It's not financial backup; it's a motivational backup
Mhm.
what we had from some mature individual. So we took
True.
that opportunity, and the ecosystem support really well for us. This is we are first company coming out of North. There was really a good support from the ecosystem, especially from ICTA. We were in every places, and we went to Barcelona. We met our second investor from Citibank. It was an amazing support from the ecosystem that time, and it's more connected ecosystem. The startups which started in that time period, it could be Liveroom, it could be Direct Pay, Pay Media. The list of companies I can mention, the companies who survived 10 years are started in that period because the ecosystem was new and they are backing up all the startups. Nowadays, the hit rate was very, very low. Companies start tomorrow, today, and it's closed in another 2 days. But it has an ecosystem support and mindset and mentorship. I think there's no 100% credit we can take for the survival and the decision what we took. It's an ecosystem effort.
Yeah, 100%. I did a episode with Sandan as well, talking about the IT Hub, like how it has been inspiring people and then helping people out for about last 15 plus years. I think a massive effort right over there. As you rightly said, ecosystem really matters and people guiding you when you are a university student, having that
Yeah,
guidance and to go take that risk. Because see, if you go and ask your parents, they'll be like, nah, you should go and find a job
exactly.
and start. Look at the stable pay. But here, some very senior folks telling you to take that step and don't worry, even if you fail, there'll be someone who will recruit you. I think that's
Yeah,
an assurance for people. So the I was very much fascinated about your funding rounds, the amount of funding that you got as well, like John Keels to Citibank funding. Bunch of you came out of university, started a company, and then went to all the accelerators without a playbook. I think your company was the first company in Sri Lanka that actually started to have devices at scale, like talking to agriculture farms and all that. So how do you convince all these people to fund you?
exactly. So John Keel's funding was not straightforward. It took a little bit
Mm-hmm.
of effort, but it not in a purpose of investment or convincing where we started. So when we lose in not coming back to Colombo with the support, we started again. But we chin up and we said, okay, it's not working right now. The market is not ready to implement tech in the
Yeah.
farmers field. So let's pivot and working on B2B environment. And the tech was already ready for that. So that's where ICTA was convinced in terms of giving a grant to us. We started to implement sensors in cold rooms and reefer trucks. Eventually, that took a big hit. Now, at the moment, the product called Polar under SenseMate, which has more than 3,000 nodes, starting from Sri Lankan Airlines Cargo to Sri Lankan National Medical Regulatory Authority, Sri Lankan Dangerous Drugs Environment. So, having a company like John Keels is amazing. It's always good to have a massive company in your background. But being an early stage entrepreneur, it might be a little controlling, having a board seat with a very professional blue chip company. So we took a decision, okay, so SenseMate, we're supposed to have a holding, we're supposed to have a control where, because it's our vision to start. So they are interested on the piece where agriculture is involved. So then they launched the program that's John Keel's X, and we want to publish a new company, not as SenseMate. So we incorporate SenzAgro with a 100% holding company as from SenseMate as a sister company, and where we place SenzAgro to front the investment forum. And we had a confident, almost 100% it's convinced that John Keel is going to invest on SenzAgro. It's not about that 2 million. If anybody we start from 2 million and where we are at the moment, if it's inspirational, don't start in that inspiration. 2 million is not enough. For 2 months, you are done with your operational cost. You don't have a runway, basically. It's all about, we had a backup. So SenseMate is already operating for 2 years, and we have financial backup where we can pump, but it's our own money. So we had a luck to make sure bankrupt very quickly and back up with a successful product. The second product we installed, which is successful, companies like John Keels or Haley's or any large-scale blue chip company, they have a huge ecosystem to where companies don't have. 4,000 farmers, 100% buyback, what else you need? So Keels, the entire network, we piggyback on their ecosystem and work with the farmers. It's 100% alignment is there. They instruct farmers, okay, we will buy you, install this technology. Farmers always has this curiosity whether it works, how this piece of plastic going to improve my productivity. That's their question, because their knowledge was 2,000 years old, and you are trying to bring something born yesterday, and they are very reluctant, and they don't want to experiment with their environment. So Keel said, we will give the opening, we will buy 100% if anything happens, and use the tech. So that's a huge opportunity for a startup to
Wow.
start with. So that's the important thing. The 2 million you can basically ignore. That's not the case. So from that, with that endorsement, we started to align. The same time where ICTA gave the opportunity to travel to Barcelona, we had like 200,000 rupees in hand at that time. That's all the balance we had. We had a decision, okay, let's invest that on new set of hardware and look for the business, or let's all three of us go to Europe and see what's happening there. And we took the second option. We went to Barcelona, Mobile World Congress, with the last investment what behind. This was in 2017. And that was the best decision what we did. So we get exposed to what globally people do. And there was a person, look, dark skin, just like Sri Lankan, came to us. And he used to be one of the keynote speaker. He saw Sri Lankan flag in our booth, and he came to our booth, had a discussion. And 3 years later, when we are start raising seed round, we just circulate the email and ask if you know anybody interested in AgriTech in Sri Lanka, you can share with them. He asked how much you are looking for. I said, not much, maybe $50,000 to start with. And he said, okay, I will invest. Like within 24 days,
Wow.
he closed the thing. He used to be the managing director of Citibank, a Sri Lankan we forget to celebrate, one of the 12th largest brand in the world. And he's the managing director of that company. And Mr. Burnout still is an amazing advisor. He created the discipline what we have internally, like a financial discipline, basically, because we all techies. He brought the financial discipline every 3 months, board meetings, and that structure was built by him, I would say. So usually it take minimum 6 months minimum for an investment evaluation. From the discussion to fund in the bank, it took 24 days, within a month. So that's the trust Sri Lankan has on a Sri Lankan ecosystem.
Wow, congrats. What a journey, Miller. Not easy. Like, and especially when you called out, don't think about the like 2 million funding round that we got, but think about the ecosystem that was
Yeah.
supporting. I think that's fantastic. Now, I actually want to scratch the surface of the engineer in you,
Sure.
right?
Yes, IoT.
Tell me about that part of the journey. How did you get started creating all these devices initially? Did you manufacture it? You mentioned initial
Built
PC
in
board
Canada.
came from Canada. From there onwards, you can't actually continue to build from Canada. But I would
Yeah.
love to hear what's the story in building that piece of tech in your company.
Yeah, actually, hardware is really a pain in the neck. So you don't want to be on that segment, honestly speaking. That's why most of the electronic engineers end up in software industry. Electronics you can build if you have an ecosystem. This is 2026. Up to now, Sri Lanka don't have a PCB baking industry in Sri Lanka. We don't have the facility. So we must send it to China, the cheapest option, or India, because most of the US based environment don't like to work with the Chinese communication module. So they want to prefer Malaysia or India to run. So that's how it works. So the entire PCB design, firmware, algorithm, logic, everything in-house made. We send the design to Chinese manufacturing facilities, and they print it and send back the circuits, and we assemble it again and do the firmware and work on. But nobody in Sri Lanka willing to invest on hardware, period. That's what they have experienced. Because it's not about the manufacturing or the innovation side, people love it, but the maintenance and troubleshooting. You need people on the ground. And especially when you have remote implementation, it's very hard. And you are sending out of the premises, you need to go through multiple regulations. If it's on medical, FDA, NHS, EPA, H7, there are so much CE, GDPR, so many complications. And even if you're working on based on industry, you have to go for the IP status, where the water resistant, weather resistant, and all those things. The enclosure might be. Nowadays they're talking about IP69K. Nobody understand. I never saw a single device in IP69K, but FAO for a tender, they're looking for a aquaphonic sensor which IP69K. What do you mean by that? You have to dip it under 200 meters and the sensor is supposed to still work.
Wow.
This is getting so hard. So give us small context that last Ditwa, we lost 124 devices underwater and soil. it couldn't be recovered. 20 million rupees worth of business and hardware being lost. So this is happens especially in hardware. If it's on software, one cloud server done, you have a mirror or a backup done. But this is a very hard business. But at the moment, the most feasible context to work, I met the Imperial College senior dean and professor into electronic department. They also do the exact same thing. They design everything in-house, the PCB, the SolidWorks, the molding, the schematic of electronics, everything designed in-house, but they send it to China to print it out because that's how you can keep the margins in. And electronics is all about marginal business. How big your batch, that's how much margin you get. The larger the batch, you get a better margin, so you can provide for an affordable price, for an affordable market. For the affordable market, you have to have spent a lot in terms of business to capture that affordable market. So it's like a loop, because whenever we install in north central or northern province, after 3 months you get very weird data. So when we take out the sensor from the ground, you can see like a POP band-aid. It's calcium filling throughout the entire sensor. You don't have any option. It don't interact with the sensor. Basically, it's just seal it completely in outside. So we find so difficult building our own sensors. So we work on the transmitters. All the sensors are on-shelf sensors, which is already existing, worked in Israel, Netherlands, or US. We bring those technologies, our sensor technologies, and the communication, we work on GSM, 2G to 4G, 5G, or Wi-Fi. And nowadays, the most advanced and most implemented one is LoRaWAN. So we put more R&D and effort. NHS side supported us at the moment for the R&D on the LoRaWAN in Sri Lanka. So we struggled with TRC and somehow got opportunity for the last time, and now we can openly use LoRaWAN. So yeah, it's a tough business to work in the hardware side. But nowadays, it took almost 5 years to stabilize the technology. Now, for the past 3 years, we are in operation. But it gives a huge advantage where your USP and uniqueness, where others can't immediately replicate. So it takes a little bit of time where you have enough time to go to market. That's a tough business, but if you master it, it's an amazing environment.
I mean, that's the beauty of it also. Like you put in a lot of effort into it. Like once you have something stable, that becomes a cash cow. And then, as usual, probably a hardware business is tough. So you were mentioning about hardware. Actually, it's hard to replicate. And then you also use on-shelf devices
Sensors.
for some of your sensor technologies also, right? So in your opinion, what's your USP? Is it in the software? What's your mode?
Our model, not in the hardware for sure, surplus, because if you send the devices schematic to China, already you are violating your IP. There's nothing you can talk about. It's done. So keeping your IP on hardware sitting in Sri Lanka, it's very hard. Then you have to manufacture everything in-house, and it's already leaked. If they wait until the market get mature and you are popularized, and then they start to come up with replications. So we keep our IP mostly towards how it works on the ground with smallholder ecosystem and the crop intelligence. So the maturity of 8 years, we started in a very wide crop selections, even start with paddy and failed. So we had a wide variety of crop selection. Now we more focused to few crops which we have specialization, and we had amazing success stories like coconut, for an example. Coconut irrigation and fertigation, which improve productivity by 30%, and it's an amazing hit. And greenhouses, we go with capsicum varieties like bell pepper, scotch bonnet. Those has amazing success. And even strawberry type of berry varieties, we have super success because those are non-native crops for Sri Lanka, most of the South and Southeast Asian ecosystem. So when you bring an intelligence which produce optimum even, that's a perfect success story because those are not native for your environment. You're creating an ecosystem which is not relevant for the environment. So we narrow down our crop intelligence and make it more specialized on those. None of them have those intelligence because it took 8 years to learn and implement those crop analytics and logics and so on. Second thing, in the hardware implementation side of it, we have some IPs. It's unique for the smallholder global south as well, if anybody want to explore. So in AgriTech, if you want to automate certain things, the common device would be a solenoid, which is you can control the valves, water, fertilizer, or misting, fogging, anything run with a valve. You open up water.
Mm-hmm.
So water is the primary source. So if you come with existing players, existing solenoid valves, which comes with two modes. First mode, which is anytime open. Second mode, anytime close. That means anytime open means it's always open. To close the door, you have to give power. If anytime close, it's always closed. To open up the water, you have to give power. But the problem is our farms are like scattered. You don't have your farm, and most of the farms don't have electricity. So in those lines, to open up the valve, you need to run without power. And solenoid valve, you have to give 24 volt, and you can't generate it. You need to have a huge solar panel, and all. It's very complicated. So we come up with a technology called bistable solenoid. Usually it's used in oil industry and so on, where it gives a pulse which open up, which gives another pulse which close. So you don't need power. But the drawback here, which only can support 8 bar pressure. That means for large scale farms in Israel, Netherlands, US, you can use it. Their farms are way big. Their pressure is way big. The entire valve will break. But for smallholder farmers, the global south farmers usually, this is more than enough. Which 8 bar, usually 2 bar, can cover 2 to 3 acres. So that's the farm size. So we have a more comfortable zone and a very specific regional identification. It took long time to figure out what works, and a lot of learning on how the irrigation works. What is the best wilting point? What is the best saturation point? How much water we need to maintain for each crop based on the soil type, how much water will be hold, how much water porosity, evaporation. So much of algorithms and calculation and digitalization. I would say the crop intelligence and the intelligent logic, which is something special, and our SenzMatic IoT platform, which is our in-house made IoT platform. Initially, we had calculated that Azure IoT Hub, for an example, the IoT platform, which costs like $30,000 if you are running an enterprise business. So we started to build our own, and after 11 years, it's become a mature platform. Even telco companies in US and Canada are using right now. So we own that platform right now. So 100% device management, lock management, logic management, troubleshooting, user management, socket changing, anything, AI configurations. It's flexible. And to restart a company like us, it took huge amount of investment. You can't run with that 2 million rupees. So that's the story. So we had so much of backup support from our previous experience, and throughout these 8 years of learning, sitting and living among farmers.
Fantastic. So Milak, what is Global South Farmers?
Okay, Global South, if you take the global longitude, so it's something like the Western world above India and Sri Lanka and that part above. It's mostly little mature market. Japan, Chinese, Russia, East Europe, something beyond Italy and above. So what you see below that line, which is South Asia, Africa, Latin America, except for Australia, almost every people comes with the same kind of GDP per capita. So that's what people generally call Global South.
Interesting. So as the CEO, Miller, I'm sure you are speaking to your customers. What are some of the common challenges that you're seeing among farmers that you're solving through your technology?
So if you're a corporate farmer with like hundreds of acres, or you are a massive operation, then you have certain control over how much your unit cost and how much your price would be. And the markets they are playing around are kind of mature enough to pay for those activities as well. If it's organic, they're willing to pay extra. And even if you go to US, you can definitely see like water bottles are like priced differently. There are $1 bottle, there are $5 bottle, there are $10 bottle. It looks exactly same, but they're selling water in different pricing. But people willing to buy those because they see other values beyond the product. So you can price it. Basically, that's the biggest advantage you have. But in Global South, the smallholder ecosystem, and there are 500 million smallholder farmers around the world, their biggest barrier, you don't have control over pricing your product. You're working to the ecosystem. And so whatever innovation you can take into the market, whatever the investment you can put it in, end of the day, your produce per kilo price will be decided by the market. Let's consider Sri Lanka. So we have 18 economic centers, agroeconomic centers. Based on the economic center, your product price will be vary. That's it. So you don't have any controls. Buyers being smart, they come very early, look at the market, whether it's piled up to a larger amount on the same day. Then they take a hold back until it's piled up like a mountain, and they will find, okay, now you have more than enough production, and they reduce the price. If the market is not acquiring a lot of produce for the day, then they're getting in early on and get to the best pricing. So always farmers will be end up at a losing point, because you are not in a position to price it. And the biggest other barrier is the middleman, because they make sure you are in that same line. They create convenience by purchasing from your gate price. We call it first gate, the farm gate. So the farm gate price is basically decided by they are very comfortable. Anybody comes to my farm and purchase it out. So farmers try to get rid of the produce because they don't have the infrastructure to support it. Like a cold room, for an example, they don't have it. So 99% of Sri Lankan farmers don't have access for cold room. So whatever you produce today, within 3 days, you have to sell it. So you have to identify a buyer, you have to bargain with the buyer, and you have to get rid of the produce within 3 days, or you are losing everything. So people in the other end, the value chain, taking advantage of that timeline issue. That comes to a point whether we can store it and sell it in a later stage when the prices go up. You don't have cold room. Whether you can do processing it and keep the shelf life higher, maybe dry it, taking the moisture out, keeping it for a 1 year period. Whether you have the infrastructure, farmers are always in hand to mouth. That means you have to be successful in this rotation to at least run the next rotation. So there is no other innovation starting. We try to squeeze in this kind of environment only. So we want to be successful on the first trial itself. If farmers fail after taking a risk with you in the AgriTech side of it, and they never even touch an AgriTech program from whoever it's coming from. So that's where it's so risky. The problems are huge. The biggest barrier, farmers don't have price control. So if you become the market, if you are a market enabler, that's what the first priority people are looking into. And if any startup want to get into play, making efficient on that supply chain, that is the best place you can work out, more than the productivity improvement or anything. Because for Sri Lankan context, I'm mainly talking about, we have a brand called Ceylon, which we are not utilizing it properly yet. Only for tea and cinnamon and claw we using it, or gems. We are not utilizing for any other produce. We try to compete with India and China. That's not an equation we can play out. We can't compete with them on quantity. It's all about producing a better quality and putting it in a higher price and a higher market. To reach that, we have to have better practices in-house, and our efficiency on supply chain is supposed to be very high. So definitely tech need to be play on those roles, because it's more conventional. So many people, mostly non-value adding middleman. This is the group of individuals we have to eliminate, because you can't eliminate all the middlemen. It's like God. You try to eliminate God and you become a God at end of the day. So something like that. So this is like, you can't eliminate middleman for sure. If you eliminate the middleman, you become a middleman. You enable the other service, other end connection. Farmers need to realize getting closer to the consumer much as possible. That's an amazing job you can do for a farmer. They're getting better benefits in terms of pricing. You have many things to play around. Inefficiencies are everywhere. Necessity is mother of all the invention, right? So there are million necessities at the moment in agriculture value chain.
Yeah. There were like a lot of really good learnings. What you're actually explaining the challenges, Miller, to be honest, because you have a very good understanding about like the pain points of your customers, especially like in the global south, right? Like rice, paddy. We eat rice for all 3 of our meals. 3 or more at times.
3 or more.
Like when you look at like the Western countries, it's not the case. But like some of the bigger markets like US and China, like India also, they still rely on their like agriculture in most cases too. So we should probably talk about like the policies, like the role of government
That's
that can
huge.
play. It's a different podcast altogether.
Yeah,
I would
definitely.
say.
It takes another 2 hours if I start to talk about that.
Yeah. So talk to me about like how you're operating in other countries also, Miller, because you said like you're operating in 10 other countries too. So managing devices, managing customer relationships can be different while you're based out of Sri Lanka. How do you do that?
No, actually, it happens during COVID, Shafas, because
Mm.
during COVID, we were just maturing, get the first ticket, paid customers in 2019, just entering to 2020, just 1 month before lockdown, only we get the funding. That's how we survive. Honestly, we were lucky in many cases. So our second round of investment, where Burnout was investing on month of March, month of April was lockdown. So we have money in the bank to survive and overcome COVID, but we
Mhm.
can't showcase, we can't travel. Without showcasing your technology among smallholders, there is no possible way we can promote it. Nobody knows what is SenzAgro, what is technology, and so on. So we are in a position that honestly, that's something we always talk about. What is the innovation? How blue ocean the market is, and but
Yeah.
when you're getting into a blue ocean, the biggest problem is you have to educate the customer because they don't
Yep.
have any idea about it. So we were in a position to educate. We run like hundreds of webinars and ground promotions and sessions, farmer workshops, but suddenly everything was stopped. All our investments are completely in vain. We came to Singapore to meet Olam International's managing director and the CFO. They had an opportunity where we can be a digital partner for them for the third
Mhm.
largest agriculture company in the world. It was on the brink of an opportunity. Through LinkedIn, we somehow connected. 2020, we were there in Singapore and talking to the CFO, and they own 7 million farmers. It's larger than
Wow.
Sri Lankan entire farming ecosystem, run by one company. All the coconut chocolate industry was run by them. So
Mm.
this company had a discussion we could be a digital partner. COVID hit, conversation dropped for 2 years, and they meanwhile they built their own company called Olam Digital, and we were lost the entire opportunity. We could be acquired by them by now. Everything was completely abandoned. But saying that, COVID gives an different opportunity for us. We were stuck. You can't promote it internally.
Mhm.
Why not? Let's export, box the product. We never lay off anybody. The 6 people that time, we stuck to the team and we
Mhm.
went to the board again, working on the hardware where we can eliminate the requirement of installation. So it's all plug and
Mhm.
play. Everything is plug and play. We change the socket, how the installation works. No screw, no nuts. We just take it out, put the same, just like a mobile phone, you place it in the ground, it works. So we come to a point, we box the product and we create a franchisee type of a training program, 2 weeks.
Mhm.
How whatever I train my team, we make it as a course module. So that's the
Yep.
source right now what we have. Then you change the business model from direct to customer to B2B to F, business to business
Mm.
to farmers. So that model help us to reach irrigation companies and greenhouse builders globally, and they become our
Mhm.
distribution channel partners. We are like a complementary partners for them. So they will be,
Mhm.
at the moment they do irrigation setups and greenhouse building. So we convert them into a digital smart farmer. So they took our product and they started to distribute our name, and we have a revenue share. It
Nice.
worked for a certain extent. So I won't say it's 100% everything works. I have like 25 plus partners signed up during COVID and post, and still that's our business model. And less than 10 are active, but they are continuously active. They started to do business. And more than 15 are completely idle. They are sleeping partner. After the
Yep.
first deployment, they are sleeping. But there are 10 they are actively implementing in multiple places. Malaysia is our second home. They have more than 20 plus
Mm.
deployments there, including Sunway Group is
Nice.
one of our customers. The financial freedom to do investment, to do business model in another country, or you have to have non-exclusive partnership and have multiple partners for reaching the
Yep.
same industry. So you're losing more on the revenue share because of the
Mm.
non-exclusivity, but it's still fine. So we took the second option, and we have 25 plus partners in 10, 11 countries, and that's
Mhm.
how our expansion works.
Awesome. Now, say for an example, if a device breaks down, who would do the maintenance part?
We have trained. That's what the model, the course model which I mentioned. So which has
Hmm.
ground level troubleshooting, installation,
Nice.
replacing different devices. So whatever it's damaged, we say we always keep a spare devices with them, like 10% of
Yep.
all the sensors, boards, and everything, and they replace it. And time to time they ship the damaged devices.
One of the reasons that I also speak to entrepreneurs like yourself miller, you're trying to actually solve like real problems, the problems that people have, right? Not just create unnecessary problems by creating an app or something, or maybe just have nonsense, right? This is like real deal. So while you convince yourself and the team also to build this tech, I'm sure nothing goes like as you planned. The entrepreneurship
Yeah, that's
journey
what.
is not rosy, right? So what are some of your top mistakes that you have done and then you are still learning from those mistakes?
Yeah, every single day there's a learning and mistakes. There's no, so the identifying the first problem and bringing an innovative solution, that's the first step. I would say like 1%
Hmm.
of the entire journey.
Yeah.
99% it happened throughout every single day. So the biggest, everything every day there's something happened, but the biggest, I would say it was a risk which we aware and we didn't prioritize to address it, and we
Hmm.
lost a lot. That is Ditwa. So because 83% of SenzAgro market was in Sri Lanka, and all our businesses and our customers and everything was in Sri Lanka. When a situation like Ditwa happened, nobody expects 75 years of historical flood, 83% market, all eggs in the same basket. And we lost 20 million rupees worth of business and lost especially break even. So we had break even 2025. 26 we supposed to be positive and we go for a Series A round. So that was the plan. Now Series A round going to be postponed until we become more again cash positive. So we lost
Hmm.
last year because we lost a huge chunk of money in the last 3 months of period. In case if I already prepared to expand and at least 50% of the market outside Sri Lanka, I could have achieved that financial freedom, I would say. So now we are prepared. We started to aggressively progress. So I think I traveled 8 countries starting from this year. This month of 8 countries. Last 2 weeks back, I was in London, as you know. So because it's all about expanding and sales, expanding teams, expanding different market openings, I want to make sure by this, that's the board decision. By this April, coming April, we want to be saturated our business sales coming from outside Sri Lanka at least 50%. So then only
Wow.
we will be secure if something goes internally an issue. It's all about, not about tech, nothing about what we learned for 5 years in engineering, computer science. It's a completely different ballgame. So I would say the 10 years of learning and all our mentors and investors, director board, and everything gives maybe entrepreneurs who started to something new. It's all about the resilience. Entrepreneurship is
Hmm.
all about resilience. We lost 20 million rupees while 2 million rupees investment, as you said. So it could happen. And still we have enough courage and we are smiling and we can run it forward and the entire team stays as it is. They are okay with it. They are okay to go forward. We are not doing layoff. So it's all happening. And it happened because of the experience what we come across from SenseMate, from 2 engineers to 170. So that happens in overnight. 11 years of hard work. So that resilience
Oh.
basically reflecting in SenzAgro, because I would say SenzAgro is much easier journey because from SenseMate, mother company where we learned, it was a really hard journey. 98% it's outside Sri Lankan market. So all the compliances, ISO standards, it's a different hustle for 170 people to manage. SenzAgro is 14 people. It's much easier, simpler operation. It sounds tough because it's a tough market to access, but SenseMate is a different ballgame. So
Yeah.
you definitely, now I feel solo entrepreneurship it's not recommended. You must have a team, a trusted team. Whatever I say, they have to build. My CTO have a different
Hmm.
headache. I change the requirement every single time. My farmers say something, I have to convey that. We had conflict all the time, but that
Yeah.
understanding among founders is very important. So fortunately, it's aligned. 99.9% people don't align this team.
Oh
It's
wow.
tough.
Yeah, it's a tough game. I'm sure like when you
It's
are an
tough.
engineer, you didn't think about those things, right? Now that you
Yeah,
are a
never.
CEO,
We
you have to.
never. But we are in a point where there's no turning back and no regret. Also, that's the important part. If I feel
Yeah.
like if I'm sitting in a computer industry or IT industry, I might be safe. Maybe I move to somewhere. My brother is in Sweden. Probably I'm in Europe or somewhere. It's boring. It's now we are in a point that we pass all those things. We are, I don't know what we are aiming and running towards, but something is pushing for us to running.
True.
That's I think that's the motivation which keep us alive.
Yeah. I mean, like you all are actually changing the lives of people, even if it's like a tech product. Like on ground,
Yeah,
people actually see an impact of your technology. I think
definitely.
that's satisfying in one point, and then of course, like it also in long term creates an impact too. Now, what is it like to become a CEO? How do you keep up in newest technologies, the trends that are coming up, especially with AI? Things are getting disrupted. Like we just spoke
Yeah.
pre-session also, like how the job markets are being disrupted as well. So as a CEO, how are you keeping up with the changes in technology? And of course, along with that, there are business need changes too.
Yeah, definitely. We have to keep up to date on what's happening and so on. At least for a conversation level of understanding on everything, almost everything.
Yep.
Not only on the industry, funding ecosystem, sports, everything. Even without even sports, we can't start a conversation. That's the best icebreaker, right? If we are talking in London, it's all about weather. If you're talking to an
Yep.
Australian or anywhere, cricket is the best thing you can start with. So until last month it was FIFA. Now again we're starting something else. So I mean you have to know everything at least for conversation. So morning it's all about LinkedIn and Bloomberg or Reddit. Usually that's how the day starts. But I would say that the being on CEO, you have to understand the ground, especially in my sector. AgriTech, it's all about understanding customers. Unfortunately, the customers are not in your LinkedIn, not in your social media, not in your computers or Reddit. You can't find them. So these guys are in ground on that's their
Mhm.
bread and butter. So majority of so we are not the first, and we
Yep.
won't be the last as well. If you take Crunchbase, there are 1,600 agritech companies in they have portfolios in Crunchbase, and
Mhm.
how many of them surviving right now? It's a question mark. Same scenario in Sri Lanka. Many companies started. I never see anybody as a competition because we need more players to educate the market. Then it's much easier for me to sell. Even telcos, as you know, they are into market. I love to have more competition on that line, so it's much easier for us to expand. So they already experience. So many people fail because they are not living the life, or they are not living among their customers. Understanding customers and sales and cash flow is the king. Nothing else. The tech and everything can be fixed. Any internal issues can be fixed, but the sales and cash
Mhm.
flow and the customers are the key. So to realize that, it took a long time. When COVID hit, only we realized a lot. Like people never left. People never asked for bonuses. We are fortunate to have that. We were 35 engineers before COVID. Post COVID, we are 120.
Wow.
Actually, we increased during COVID. We expand during COVID. Our business from 30 percentage around from Sri Lanka become 2% in Sri Lanka and 98% outside Sri Lanka. COVID, we turned upside down, and the team was supporting. So it's
Mhm.
all about, it's not a single person's carrying the torch. It's an
Yep.
entire team supposed to believe and work out. For me, my co-founders who taking care individual segment, major segment. I never know who are the people who coming as intern, who are the people going out, how much salaries. I don't have a single clue as a CEO. My co-founder taking care of everything. I don't want to worry about tech side, the security. My CTO will take over that. So
Yep.
I'm very comfortable working and understanding the farmer segment. They don't have a single clue about that. So if that trust is there and we meet time to time and we discussing, that's how it works. So it's first of
Mhm.
all my co-founders, then the core team and the team. It's a complete team effort. So basically I'm enjoying. But the problem is the burnout. It's tough. Sometimes it's really tough. You burn out. So for I am okay because I'm travel alone, and I love travel type of things. So it's basically de-accelerating and spending a little bit of time on leisure to work out and come back. But my CTOs and CWO and the guy running the show internally, they are really burnt out. So very recently only I took Jayandan to UK for this project. He was like sleeping all the time. because he was so burnt out, he don't find time. Because we started in Sri Lankan time in 9 a.m. We have an office in Delaware, so our operations runs there, and we have to sleep around 2 a.m. in the morning. So it's happened for at least 7 days a week. So throughout 365, we are working. So the burnout will be a huge problem. So learning new things, handling the way around for the burnout. Yes, it's tough, but keep motivating with end vision where you want to be, or do some impact and see the impact in your results. I think that's keep you alive as a CEO to take it forward.
Awesome. I'm really grateful, and then also I'm really amazed by looking at how Miller has evolved over last decade or so, from a CS undergrad to a currently running a CEO of like a bigger company. I'm really happy for you, Miller, and then the team as well, like meeting up all of you back then in Sri Lanka, which has been like fantastic. So if anyone watching this podcast episode, and if they want to get connected with you and SenzAgro, what's the best way that they can do that?
LinkedIn would be ideal. I'm very active in LinkedIn, so I'll be immediately messaging.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to see SenzAgro becoming a global brand one day. I'll be one of the guys on the sidelines cheering for your success. And thank you very much for joining the episode today.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for having me, Afras. And great pleasure to meet you after 12 years. And it's amazing that where we met and where we are right now. It's an amazing growth. Proud to be Sri Lankans, and we are everywhere.